Hello, Roohi.
Hello, Hiba.
Hello. So for everybody listening to us, as I had promised, and even with my very challenged technological skills, I'm very proud of myself because I have Roohi Dixit on the line with us all the way from India. She is one of the directors of this upcoming arts documentary called Spaces Between, which will be showcased at the upcoming film festival next week. So we are honored, first of all, to have you on air, Roohi. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much, Hiba. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And Roohi has just gotten off a flight. She was in another city, so we really had to kind of figure out how to do this. But I'm so glad that we have her online with us. So I'll be picking your brains a lot, Roohi. I am notorious for rocking the boat. And you would be the perfect person to do it with because you obviously have produced such a wonderful movie. So first of all, I was telling our listeners that I am not even going to try giving a summary of the movie because I read up on it many times, but it seemed so unique, and I said I want to make sure that I do justice to it. So first of all, tell us a little bit about the movie.
Well, so the film is called Spaces Between, and the film is sort of like a poetic interpretation of artist Nikhil Chopra's performance called La Paire Noire 2, which he performed at the Kochi Biennale last year. So Nikhil is a very compelling performance artist, and his work revolves a lot around what he's trying to do in terms of he breaks the boundaries of his body. This particular performance was over 52 hours long, and in which he enclosed himself in a room over 52 hours. And so basically what we were trying to do as filmmakers is trying to understand the artist's mind, through the performance. So basically he encases himself in this situation for over, 52 hours. He paints the room completely black. And then, figuratively for us, it was a very, very interesting experience because, we have never shot with a performance artist before. And just to be in that space, being artists ourselves, it was very, very challenging to really unearth the mind of another artist and why he's trying to do what he's trying to do. So in a nutshell, what we were trying to do is completely our interpretation of Nikhil's performance. So it's like a two-way thing, right?
Sure.
So it's Nikhil performing his art and it's our interpretation of what he's trying to say.
Wow. And I think that is very unique because I don't think you come across a lot of films where you would ever get to see that aspect.
No, actually, it's a very, very privileged position for us as filmmakers because, and Nikhil is absolutely fantastic. He was absolutely open to anything. We had cameras there, we had sound recorders, we were moving like, little flies across the room over those 52 hours. We had also spent time with him earlier. He runs this residency art place in Goa called the Heritage Art Spaces. So we were there with him and we kind of, figured out exactly how he functions, what his life is like, what the person behind the performance artist is all about. So that really was something that we were very, very keen to unearth. So he was fantastic. We had complete access. And just to be an artist and to get into another artist's mind was mind-altering.
I can only imagine. And tell us some things that you found out that you said I would have never have thought.
About the film?
About the artist? About the artist's mind.
First of all, I think a lot of us artists, whether we're in media, whether, we all have different means of working. Like some of us use film, some of us take to the pen, some of us like you who are, radio show hosts. We all have this very cathartic dual life that is happening all the time. One life is the life that you want to create something out of, which is your creative life, and the other life is the life that you lead as a person, right? So this was, I would say, a very, very strong thing for Ziba and I, that, to understand how an artist thinks, how a fellow artist thinks. And it was absolutely mind-blowing to think that we're also similar in certain ways, Like we have the life happening, our children, our house, our relations, the way we operate in society, the way we operate in social structures, and all of that. And from that comes this power to create, take it forward onto something else and put it into your work. So that symbiotic relationship was a very, very interesting process for us, For example, when we were talking to Nikhil, and we spent a lot of time with him, before he got into the performance act, just to see him operate in his everyday life, and he talks about this in the film as well, that, where does an inspiration for an artist comes from? It actually comes from life itself, the life that we lead on an everyday, regular basis, our normal, ordinary lives. That is where the great inspiration comes from in order to take it forward onto something that we want to say to the world. So I think that for us was a very interesting process, and we loved being a part of it because we realized a lot of things about our own selves.
Sure. I'm sure it's introspective.
Yes. So that was very interesting.
So, Roohi, tell us, what should the audience kind of expect when they go to see? Because, I was just talking on my show, unfortunately, hum desis, we're not, we don't have that appreciation of art that I think we should. We need to make our way to it. But, often when you tell someone, oh, it's an art film or it's an art documentary, people go, oh, acha, they have this very stereotypical idea of some long, boring, drawn out. So, obviously, this is something extremely different, and it's really taking us into the mind of an artist. What should the audience expect?
See, first of all, I would say, Hiba, that Ziba and myself, we don't box ourselves into, just being documentary filmmakers.
Sure.
I think we are filmmakers, and the film that we've tried to do is a mix of fiction and non-fiction. Okay. So it's, there's a lot of visual poetry in the film, and that definitely is something anybody can relate to. And second of all, the theme of the whole film, here's this guy, he encases himself inside this room for 52 hours, is a very relatable thing for any human being, because at the crux of it is a very simple thing that, all of us tend to go into, we tend to withdraw from life sometimes and go into this zone, where everything is dark and when life weighs you down and, you don't know how to get out of that funk. All it takes is a ray of hope, which is what Nikhil does at the end of the film. I mean, I don't want to say too much about it, but this is a story of how a man encases himself inside the walls of his mind and how he breaks free. So that is essentially a very human, basic human struggle and a very basic human need, and we all understand it, we all understand it, all of us working people in relationships, in social structures, in our environments, we all relate to this. We all know what it is like to be in a dark, negative space, and we also know how to get out of it, because that is what life is all about. That is what living is all about. So I think audience can really look forward to, first of all, an extremely visual film. Okay. And it is not a film where, as you rightly said, that when we talk about art, we think, oh God, मुझे art के बारे में कुछ मालूम नहीं है. Art बड़ी अजीब चीज होती है, या तो समझ में आती है या नहीं आती है. Right. You have to leave all of that, behind, and when you come to watch the film, because it's really essentially is a film about a person and a person's mind, and that person's mind is no different from yours and mine. When we take it forward into an interpretation where we can relate to it with our own lives. So I think definitely more people should come to see the film and leave the thought behind that it's a documentary. Because documentaries have such a sort of, boring outlook to it. जब बोलते हो documentary है तो आधे लोग उसी वक्त परेशान हो जाते हैं, कि documentary है.
Right.
But by documentary we mean that we have documented certain amount of time that we spent with Nikhil, but mostly it's about basic human emotion of sadness, of withdrawing from life, of getting out of it, of moving forward, of finding a ray of hope and moving on, from one situation of your life to another situation, and how to do it gracefully. So we cover all of that in the film, and I think anyone can relate to the film.
Well, that is excellent. And that, I think, just listening to it gets me excited, because I think as you described, the artist going into their shell, it almost seemed like, metaphorically, it's almost like the cocoon.
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
And I think
it is too much that.
Yeah, and I think we need to spend that time in darkness, but knowing that the hope or the result will be that something bigger, better, and more beautiful will come out.
Absolutely. And the journey of life continues, for Nikhil as an artist, it's one project, and from one project he moves on to another project. For us as filmmakers, it is one destination, from one destination to another destination. And for other audience and people, who are not filmmakers and who are not artists, it's a situation of life, any situation, a simple situation that you leave behind in order to move on to the next one. It's as simple as that.
Wonderful. Now, Roohi, thanks for sharing all of that about the movie. What we're also very interested in knowing is more about you. Tell us your background. How did you meet Ziba? How did this entire idea come about?
So Ziba and I are, I'm saying this on air, and Ziba and I are really best of friends. Okay. We've been friends for a very, very long time. We started our production house together. We're two girls, and we had an all-women production house doing advertising films, which was one of the first in India. And after doing advertising for a few years, we moved on to wanting to do, using a bigger canvas to say what we want to say, because advertising films are 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and we wanted to use our craft to reach a bigger canvas. Sure. And that canvas was sort of non-fiction films. That's what came our way. So we did this film called Scattered Windows, Connected Doors, about 8 urban Indian women, and that was in conversation with 8 urban Indian women, post which we did another documentary on 2 photographers with completely varied styles, and then we embarked upon Spaces Between. So that was actually a very interesting phenomena, how that happened. So we've been wanting to work with an artist for a very long time, simply because we ourselves are very drawn to the creative process, whether it's a musician, whether it's an artist, whether it's a writer. The opportunity came our way because there is a foundation in India called Art First Foundation, and which is headed by Ritu Khoda. And Ritu got in touch with us after she saw Scattered Windows, and she said, she wants to make a couple of films with artists. And it was like, you know how it is. Sometimes you ask for something and it just happens. Universe just gives it to you. And, it sounds really strange, but that's exactly how it happened. So we had a list of contemporary Indian artists. We researched a lot of them. Somehow we found the whole idea of performance art. It's still a very new and a very nascent sort of a field of contemporary art in India. And we were fascinated by Nikhil's work for a very, very long time. So it gave us a chance to really completely delve into the research, and things just moved like really fast from there. So we called Nikhil, and we went and had a meeting with him, and Nikhil was absolutely forthcoming. He said, it'd be absolutely exciting for me to work with filmmakers, because a lot of his work, which he's now doing, also involves a lot of filming. I mean, he's doing a lot of experimental art films as well. So that's how we just met, and we just clicked, and we said, oh God, we have to work together. We have to make this thing happen. So we spent a lot of time together, and from then on, there really was no time. We were just we just got the crew together, and the next thing we knew that we were in Goa, and we were shooting. We had a first schedule in Goa for over 15 days, and then we traveled with him to Cochin, and then we spent time with him there. And by the end of it, Ziba and me found ourselves sitting around, and we're like, oh my God, that was intense, That was really, I would say Spaces Between is one of the most intense films that Ziba and me have done, personally, for both of us as well, because as I said, to be an artist and to get into another artist's mind and to understand the process itself, we're always learning. I mean, all of us are learning at all points in our life, you know.
Sure.
I don't think there could have been a better opportunity for Ziba and me to really understand more about ourselves and about what Nikhil is trying to do.
Wow. So I think hearing that is, you know, it gets me even more excited, and I'm even more impressed that this is something that, you know, two friends decided to do. You have your own production company, which is all women. Being a strong feminist, I have a lot of respect for that.
Yay.
So very good. More to women power.
More to women power.
And tell us, Roohi, so this movie, has it been shown in India, or how? What?
Yes, you know, our film was one of the very few films to be selected at IFFI Goa, which is a very big festival in India, and we have a lot of international films. And so our premiere was over there, which has happened pretty recently, actually, a couple of months back. And we're just embarking on the journey with the film, and you know, at DFW, it's going to be the premiere of the film. It's the US premiere of the film, so we're very, very excited about it. As soon as we come back from there, we have to go to another festival in Delhi. It's hotting up. So the film is, you know, we're really, really proud to bring it to US, because also Nikhil has studied in US and spent some part of his life there. So it's really, really special for us to get the film there.
Oh, wow. So wonderful. We hopefully will be getting to see you as well.
Absolutely, Hiba. Really looking forward to seeing everyone.
That should be very exciting. And now I'm going to ask you, the topic I was doing on my show today was about, you know, since I knew I would be interviewing you, I wanted to do something related to art. And the topic was artism and extremism. And I wanted to, from, you know, as a layperson, I, you know, kind of gave out my understanding of art, which is quite limited. But I want, coming from an artist like you, how do you define art?
I don't think art can be defined, Hiba. Art is a very, very personal pursuit, and everybody has a definition of art. If I ask my 11-year-old son what art is, he has a different definition of it. Or if I ask my 70-year-old father, he has a different interpretation of it. Art is a very personal, you know, it's a very, very personal thing, how people relate to art. However, what I would tell you is the importance of art in our life, especially today. I think world needs more art, and world needs more artists, and world needs a more softer side to it, you know. We live in a world which is becoming increasingly volatile, you know, increasingly extremist. We all have our point of view, and we all want to say things. What art does is, I think, softens the person, you know. And once you're soft inside, you're open to anything else that is coming your way, and you're a more positive person in general. Art is very important. I mean, look at nature. Art is everywhere. It's in nature. It's in our bodies. It's in our minds. Art is everywhere. We should not differentiate between, you know, art and, you know, non-art, and that is the problem. I think we need more art in our life, whether be it music, be it, as I said, be it paintings, be it more films, be it conversations, you know. You can have some really beautiful conversations with people if you're open. And I think art does that. Art softens you up just so that you can take better decisions in your life, more from a human standpoint, you know. And we can do with being a little bit more human and humane in our lives.
Oh, yes, we definitely need a lot of that, I think, especially in today's times. Now, Roohi, tell me, what correlation do you see between art and extremism?
I think extremism is born out of lack of art, honestly.
Wow, very profound statement there. I like it.
It is, because, you know, as I said, art softens you up, and extremism is the opposite of everything that is soft. You know, it hardens you as a person, your ideology, your viewpoint, your all of that. So, to me, art and extremism, there's only one way that we can get rid of extremism. And it could be any kind of extremism, you know. One faces extremism every day on the road here in India. That is another kind of extremism. So, art gives you an opportunity to be a better human being, and which is why, you can, I suppose, be less extremist in your point of view about everything as a human being, as an individual, which is why there's a huge need for it in today's world.
That's very true. And one of the things that I was saying is that you look at societies in which art is truly allowed to flourish, in which it is encouraged, in which from a young age it's considered part of, just life. You notice that those people are generally much more calmer. They're much more, they're much more accepting of diversity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And much more in touch with their own inner selves.
Right.
That is where it all begins. When you're in touch with your inner self, and when you know that your inner self comes from a place of positivity and place of love and place of acceptance, it's easier for you to be accepting of everything else and everyone else.
Now, why do you think it is, Roohi, this was one of the things I was talking about, okay? Anytime any type of extreme ideology or force or government, in any shape or form, anytime any of this comes into play, anywhere you see in history, one of the first things they want to shut down or kill is art. Why?
Yes. Yeah, because, art is, we know this from experience, that art is not always soft. Art is also a huge means of raising your voice, and it gives you an opportunity to raise your voice and to talk about what you find wrong with the world, or with your situation, or with your country's situation, or with your religion's situation, which is why, art has always been, it's the first thing to get clamped down upon, because it's a point of view, and it's a point of view which really doesn't, after a point of time, care about what is right or wrong, but it wants to say what it wants to say, because it wants to bring it out into the open. So art is also a huge, it's a huge form of activism. Writers over the years, historians would tell you that, writers have caused revolutions. Films have, films that get banned cause revolutions. Art, which is hung on the walls and which makes a statement, can cause revolutions. Clearly, because art is also used as a point of view about something which you don't agree with. So it's a very, very important tool, and which is why, it's clamped down upon, because that's the one way that you can get in touch with the masses and say what you want to say. I think that's the first thing. In India, we're really seeing a lot of, bans and that sort of stuff happening every once in a way, and everywhere else in the world as well. So I understand where it comes from, but because art also, I feel, comes with a huge sense of responsibility, not just for the sake of, saying anything. It comes with a huge sense of responsibility. To be an artist is really to be a responsible human being as well,
Now,
so it's a very delicate mix.
And Roohi, I want to ask you a tricky question. So I really like what you've just said, and I was actually taking notes because I really think that you very eloquently put it across, which is that art is a means of raising your voice, expressing your point of view. And here's, I guess, a little bit of the tricky situation. So on one hand, we believe that we need art for these reasons. But let's say my way of expressing my point of view is directly insulting or offensive to another person or another group of people. What, is then the solution? Do we kill the art? Do we, what do we do then?
I don't know if there really is a solution, because, as I said, art is such a volatile medium. It also comes with a sense of responsibility, but a lot of people also use it very irresponsibly,
Right.
Without knowing that they may have the power to change the audience. People tend to forget that they have the power. So everything in life comes with a sense of responsibility, and so does art. I don't know what the solution here, Hiba, is. Seriously, I don't know what the solution is. I think the solution is to make more art, and to hear voices. Why are we so scared to hear voices? We should hear more voices, and not every voice we get offended by.
A very good point. And I think that is a huge problem in today's times, is that we are all so overly sensitive. Everything is a matter of, oh my God, that point of view disagrees, it challenges my ideologies and I must fight it. I think you're right. We need to create more art, because you know what? Art really tells you at one point, it teaches you that, you know what? You are just one of many voices. Calm down.
Yes, absolutely. I'll give you a very simple example. I remember once I was sitting with my son, and my son was drawing these little figures, and the figures were all like blue with red hands and all of that. So I tried to ask him, why are you drawing blue figures with red hands? I mean, aren't figures supposed to be, what do you see? Like human beings, the color of the skin, and, nobody really has red hands. So here is a basic difference of opinion right there, right there.
Right.
And then suddenly I withdrew and I told myself, no, he's making his art, and that's the way he is saying what he wants to say. And blue necessarily does not mean blue-skinned people, and red hands necessarily do not mean. We need to be open to ideas of how people perceive things and what they're trying to say through the medium of art.
Exactly. And I completely agree that starts from a very young age. Like, I'm tempted, if my 4-year-old is making, a purple person, or, is coloring an apple black, to make a comment and say, well, apples are red or green, but why,
Exactly my point. Which is why we need to make more art, more films, more books, more paintings, more writings, more radio shows, more music. It's only when there's more, and then everybody, imagine if the whole world was inclined towards art and everybody could express themselves through their mediums. What a beautiful world we would live in.
Exactly.
Because everybody will have an expression.
And there's no right or wrong. That's a very powerful thought, that, once we kind of saturate our world with art, it will really, there's no right or wrong. We all have a voice. No one's voice is better or stronger or nicer. Everyone has a voice.
Everyone has a voice. And we should have a chance to express that voice.
Exactly. And I think, one of our loyal listeners, before we took you on air, made a very good point, that what happens is that when we don't give people a constructive outlet for expression, it leads to all this pent-up emotion. And that is what eventually leads to extremism.
Yes, that's at the basis of everything.
So, Roohi, I know we've taken up a lot of your time. It is some unearthly hour all the way in India, and you've had a long day.
Hiba. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Well, I'm so glad that this worked out, and thank you for sharing so much of your, your mind, your talent, your vision with us. And we are very excited to check this movie out and, see all the hard work that you and Ziba have put into it.
Likewise, Ziba and me cannot wait to be there. We hope to see a whole lot of you at the screening, and we hope to have very meaningful conversations and take this forward.
Definitely. So Dallas awaits you. But till then, have a safe flight, and thank you once again for speaking with us.
Thank you so much, Hiba.
Thank you. Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.
All righty, so that was Roohi Dixit from the Spaces Between. And what a wonderful conversation. Really a wonderful conversation also has the same effect as good art. It really kind of elevates your mood and your mind and your senses to a whole different realm of thinking, of thought, of reality. So I definitely really enjoyed that, and I hope you all did, because Roohi definitely had, you could tell, truly an artist with a lot of substance, a lot of mind. And let's take a quick commercial break and be right back.